Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the episode number 15 of Business Chunautiyaan. Business Chunautiyaan has been a flagship program for the association. It was born out of the pandemic, started in last April, and we haven't missed a single month. And every month, we have brought in new challenges and new opportunities. Topics that you would be very comfortable and discussing with anybody over a cup of coffee and would never want to talk in the open. And we decided that Business Chunautiyaan should be the monthly program that brings out such issues out in the open, in the industry, for us to debate, discuss, accept a problem. Because as entrepreneurs, if you learn to accept a problem, you find an opportunity in it. You find the drive to find a solution towards it. And that's the spirit of Business Chunautiyaan. Today, we come up with an equally interesting topic, a topic that was always discussed over a cup of coffee among businessmen in the HVACnR trade. We always asked ourselves a question whether our children would ever come into our business. Or let me flip that question. Do you want to get your children into this business which you have built over your entire lifetime? To help me out to put this together is none other than Mihir Sangvi. Mihir is the Vice President at Rata. Good to see you back, Mihir, on the show.
Absolutely. Pleasure is mine, Ajit. Thank you for involving me.
Awesome. Mihir, you clearly remember about 8 years ago when we were actually part of the whole journey of reviving the association, and we strongly built that the industry needed a strong MSME association. One of the questions that we actually asked in the committee came up as a very freak discussion was, will we ever bring our kids into our business? And most of us said that I doubt we are ever going to get them into our business. And that's when we started asking a question that, hey, listen, we've spent our entire life journey. We have inherited businesses and we've done well. Why is it? And the industry is bound to grow 8 times in the next 2 decades. Then why is it that we cannot hand over that business to the next generation? And the idea started from there, and you took the leadership to say that, hey, let's build something called as the next gen. Why don't you share with our viewers the whole journey of next gen, what has happened before we get into the whole show?
Absolutely, Ajit. I still remember that conversation afresh. And, I don't know whether it was over a cup of coffee, it was over something else, but yes, it was a very serious conversation. The conversation which started was, I think we started discussing that every industry has to have a balance of first generation entrepreneurs, and they have to look at the second generation which looks up to the first generation of entrepreneurs. Right, you have to have family businesses out of which your next MNC would come out of, and at the same time you have to have a first generation entrepreneur which gets into the business. Somewhere this family business trend was dying in air conditioning and refrigeration business, and that was the prime concern where this communication started and this idea of Rata Gen Next started. I still remember our the first torch bearers. I mean, as typically we always laughing call ourselves as generation 1.5. You know, this graying of the hair and all that, it is showing very clear. We started as generation 2, but now we are at generation 1.5 and trying to get in the next generation in. And our first flag bearers, I still remember, are and still very active. Harshal Padia was there. Sean was there. Okay, Jaspreet was there from Dashmesh. I remember. Then Parth Thakkar was there. Harshal Ganjawala was there. Vishakha Dikshit was there. Okay, and of course, Renal was around with them to bind all of them together, and that's where this idea came. And I still remember this conversation which happened in Rata office where they created our mascot, a Rata. It has got such a fabulous meaning behind it. Guys, those who are not aware, you can go onto the website. There is a clear cut thought process which has gone behind it. If you see, it is a mascot of a tiger, and Arata in Japanese means fresh ideas by the next generation, which has to be brought forward. And the tiger which is depicted into the mascot, it tells you the toughness of our industry. The smile on the face, it tells you that we are hot girls and guys into a cool trade, and it is always fun to be part of this trade. We may not have shiny, automobiles to show to the world that this is what our industry represents, or we would not have IT, giant and the softwares to show. But these are the same people whom we allow them to work with their productivity. We make things comfortable for them, and that's where they can work. Can you imagine driving an Audi or a Ferrari without AC? Can you imagine a guy sitting in an IT industry creating software without air conditioning? Not possible. It is we guys who do that. And that's where this generation got together. The helmet on the head, it tells you that we take care of the safety. And that's where this word Arata came, and the next generation got together. We decided that yes, the next generation has to be very integral part of the business. How you have Ambanis and how you have Tatas and how you have Birlas, you have to have Siroyas and Panikars and Sanghvis and various others who have to get into this trade and take it forward. So we have quite a few of them who are present today, and let's get the ball rolling, Ajit.
Awesome, mate. So let's get in the next gen entrepreneurs who have joined the business. So let me introduce you to our first speaker today. We have Anirudh Baliga. Hi, Anirudh.
Hi Ajit.
Hi, Anirudh.
All right, to our viewers, Anirudh Baliga. He has been associated in the HVACnR field for the last 9 years. He has completed a bachelor's degree course in HVACR engineering technology and energy management from the Ferris State University of at US. He has worked with Opel HVAC Engineers Private Limited for 3 years and is a partner at RS Kulkarni HVACnR Consulting Engineers for the last 2 years. He's recently got certified as an IGBC and also has a IGBC AP and also has a bachelor's degree in business administration. Awesome, Anirudh. Thank you for being with us today.
All Thanks right, great. For having me, Ajit Mehir.
Pleasure, awesome. Pleasure. And those of you, who would like to connect, Anirudh, he's none other than Gautam Baliga's son.
That's right.
Who has been mentor to lots and lots of us.
Yeah, that's right. So, Mir, you're going to get in the industry connects while I introduce these youngsters, okay?
Absolutely. I'll do that.
All right, great. So, our next guest today is Roshan Sirohia. Hi, Roshan. Good to have you here.
Good to have you. Good to be part of this amazing initiative.
Awesome, Roshan. So to our viewers, Roshan is an entrepreneur who helps deliver premium, accessible cooling solutions at Cruise. He leads the air conditioning division of Cruise Group, and often his colleagues describe him as a determined thinker who puts design principles at the forefront. Roshan earned his MA in Innovation Design Engineering from the Royal College of Art and MSc from Imperial College London, and is a certified communications expert from Trinity College London. Prior to joining Cruise, he has worked at Arup Limited, Tata Technologies, and Future Factory. His strong background in product design, customer communication, and inspiring large corporate teams makes him the perfect fit to businesses aspiring to jump to the next level. That's an awesome intro, Roshan.
I didn't know it was being said to everybody. I would have shortened it.
No, I already did the shortening. It was much longer. I have already shortened quite a bit of these intros.
Single sentence में बता दूं क्या यार कौन है ये? Mr. Paras Siroya's son.
That's right.
Awesome. It is so amazing. Today, let me tell you, I have completed 27 years in business, and so has Ajit. But we are always known as Narendra Sanghvi's son or Mr. Gurnani's father, son-in-law. ये एक डिग्री हमारे पास में हमेशा रहेगी.
That's true.
हम अभी भी काफी फर्स्ट जनरेशन लोगों के लिए अभी भी बाबा ही है. It is always that way.
Awesome. Okay, let's bring in our third guest today. Our third guest is Nisha Nair. Hi, Nisha. Good to see you here.
Hi. Good evening, Paul.
Very happy. Sorry to interrupt you. Please go ahead.
No, I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome. To our viewers, Ms. Nisha is a second-generation entrepreneur and associate director at VKA Power Master Private Limited, a leading Bangalore-based panel manufacturer. She has a master's degree in tech entrepreneurship from Nanyang Technology University, Singapore, and a bachelor's degree from BMSCE Bangalore, an avid reader and a trained dancer. Awesome, Nisha. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. The pleasure is all mine.
Absolutely. And Ajit, I've known her since very long time. And I mean, of course, everyone knows her dad, Mr. Anil Nair. He has been in the industry for a very long time, and she's a generation two and a very avid reader. I've been following her on Instagram with the kind of reading. I think she, on average, you must be reading what, 1 or 2 books a day?
No,
Yeah, I mean, if you had said yes, and your dad's listening to you, saying, "Yeah, who's working? Who's at the shop? Who's running the business?"
No, but her reading. I mean, she reads anything and everything under the sun, and the kind of reading what she does is something she really inspires. So superb, Nisha. Glad that you are part of the panel.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Our last guest today is Pratik Pingani. Hi, Pratik.
Hi. Good evening, everybody.
Awesome. So, Pratik, to introduce Pratik Pingani from Shravan Ref Air Private Limited is a second-generation entrepreneur who wishes to organize this unorganized trade that we are part of. With a 3-year stint as a product and brand manager at Titan, and after his MBA from Mudra Institute of Communications, Ahmedabad, he intends to now use that experience to professionalize the business that he handles and plans to follow the paradigm that he believes in. Business should run successfully irrespective of who is running them. That's fabulous, Pratik.
Wow, Pratik, that is amazing. I think Mulindra Bhai would be really very, very proud. Of course, Shravan Refrigeration is a very big name, and Mulindra Bhai has been in the business since very long time. And good to see, such, clarity of thoughts which we are having amongst all of us. I mean, everyone has got amazing strengths, and I think everyone has got a very clear-cut focus in the direction. Ladies and gentlemen, these are your next superheroes from HVACnR industry. Look at them. We are the first one to report. Let me tell you, one fine day we will say that.
Awesome. Too good.
Too much
So,
pressure.
we've got... Sorry for that interruption.
Yeah, I mean every bit of what I'm saying. Each one of... I've had amazing interactions with each one of you. And I've seen the clarity in the thoughts. I have seen how you guys think. And, that says that, I mean, you have inborn leadership quality in you. And you all are go-getters. So I don't have any doubts whatsoever that you are going to succeed in whatever you guys are going to do.
All right. So we've got some real hectic 90 minutes coming up. So what we're going to do is I'm going to start the session. And then, Mir, you're going to deep dive into the entire questions and everything. So let me start with Anirudh. Anirudh, why don't you tell us about your company and your journey within the company, within the business, and what is it that you handle currently in the business?
Right. So good evening, everyone, again, and also to my fellow panelists, Nisha, Pratik, Roshan, and all the audience listening today. Thanks for joining. Hopefully, everyone is getting vaccinated and dealing with the pandemic well. So, at the risk of repeating a bit of what Ajit has already told you all about me, let me share a bit about my journey. So, I was working with my dad, Mr. Gautam Baliga, in his contracting firm based out of Mumbai, Opal HVAC, for 3 years. And after which I realized how technical the field was. And I decided to go for a bachelor degree course in HVAC engineering technology. So there was a college that was specifically focusing in this field, so it suited me well, and it's a hands-on kind of training that I received over there. During my course, I came across this opportunity to join RSK HVAC consultants based in Pune. So I thought that this is a very complicated step for me, but after contemplating over some time and realizing the complex nature of my dad's contracting business, I thought that this might be a more appropriate stepping stone for my career. So I decided to take this opportunity with both hands, and I started with the RSK in 2019. A bit about RSK. Mr. Kulkarni was the proprietor, and we have been providing consulting solutions in HVAC and also some additional services like CFD analysis, smoke analysis, building evacuation analysis, and so on. So, since my time with RSK, I've been trying to balance my involvement between the management and the technical aspect of the business. In a field like ours, so the technical expertise itself is the main USP of the business. So, even though you cannot really let go of the management aspect or ignore it in any way, you really don't have any option but to completely dig down into the projects and build your craft and expertise. So I try to just maintain a balance between the management aspect and the technical aspect of the business. So overall, since the time I have joined the business, it's been a very positive experience so far, and just the pandemic itself, and also changing the hat from a contractor to a consultant has just elevated the challenge a little bit for me. But I'm coping with it well so far, and I'm looking forward to this journey. So I'm very excited to be a part of this industry.
Awesome. And Mr. R.S. Kulkarni is a well-known name within the industry from Pune. I've known him very well, and I mean, you're among those few fortunate guys who get to work with him. That's really awesome, truly awesome.
Right.
But great that you're part of RSK's team and you're helping build that business. So before we get into that questions, let's bring in Roshan Siroya. So Roshan, tell us your business. You run a company, cruise brand, and what's it? How did you get into this business? And tell us what's the role that you play within the company.
Right. Thanks, Ajit. And of course, hi to the very diverse set of panelists we have here. On the business front, I think it sounds very simple. Paraji one day said, you have to join the business when I was maybe 15. And then I said, okay, so why should I study? And eventually we went, I don't know, maybe 9 years later. So I joined the business actually at the age of 27. And before that, entrepreneurship, of course, I think that spirit exists within me. And one thing I've realized that if you're from a business family, always at the dinner table or outside, there will be talks of business, which subconsciously will be sort of, I don't know, it's ingrained in us. So 2009, when I graduated from engineering, I was clear there was no intention to join the business, and eventually went to study onwards in London, product design. But when I was back in 2014, I think I found that spending some time in the business, I realized there's some value addition I can add. So that's when I think the journey of Cruise started. I picked out something in the business that I thought I could really add value to, and I could justify whatever skills I've had or whatever interests I wanted to develop in my professional career. And of course, there was a brand, and we started trying to position the brand Cruise as a premium, accessible consumer brand, Indian at heart, for the wider public. Currently focused only on air conditioners, which is residential, light commercial, and of course our OEM business continues, which is what we supply to Blue Star, Voltas, and Carry Total line. So that's a little bit about me from my background of Cruise right now.
Awesome. I like what you said. You one day got up and told me, Paraji bola ki chalo kaam pe lagna hai. That's it. That is so much like him. There's no doubt. I think we've all dealt with him, and that's pretty
Correct.
much about him. But it's amazing that you've been actually able to build a path for yourself. What's really beautiful is the fact that you identified a value proposition within the existing business where you can add value, and we've all
Correct.
seen how you've actually turned it around. And build a nice
Thanks.
brand around it. So we're going to deep dive into this a little more as we go along. All right. Great, Roshan.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ajay.
I'm going to ask. Great. So, Nisha, you're like a legend. I hope you realize that after this event that is done. No, you are in a male bastard, correct? Because this HVACnR industry Did you see our flyer? Our flyer very clearly said that kids who work for businesses which were started by their fathers.
By the
All right.
father.
Yeah. So I had a few people who were called out and who told me that shouldn't it be parents? I said, yes, that's the right word. It should be parents. But we purposely put it as fathers because there is this whole myth that this is a big macho industry. And you completely stand out on that. So here's the big question. How did you get into this industry? And what motivated you? And what is it that you do at your work? Tell us about your business a little more and your role within the organization.
Maybe my kids will say, I got it, I followed my mother, but let's hope that's going to happen soon. But firstly, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here. I hope everybody who's watching is safe. So unlike Roshan, our discussion was never dinner table discussion about me going to join the business. It happened very organically. So I finished my bachelor's and then I worked with IBM for a couple of years. Then I was deciding to do an MBA, which I then pursued a master's degree. So after that, I mean, it was always at the back of my head that this is an option that I would contemplate. And then my parents and I had this discussion sometime in 2015. And my dad was like, why don't you come? I mean, you're on this break now after your master's. Why don't you come join us for a couple of months? If you don't enjoy it, you're free to follow whatever you want to do. And I was like, sure, like, why not? And that's how the journey started. And there's been no looking back.
Amazing. Absolutely. And how many years now that you've been part of the business?
It's been 6 years now. I complete 6 years in August. Yeah.
Fantastic. So I think throughout this session today, we're going to deep dive with you in a very big way. We've got some very interesting questions that we want to ask you. And you must remember, you gonna whatever you say is going to be have a deep impact and big takeaways for everyone who is watching us today. Exactly for what the reason that I told you when we started off talking.
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, so let me bring in Pratik. Pratik, why don't you tell us how does it work for you in your business? What is it that you do, and what is your role? How did you get into your dad's business?
I think similar stories of what other people have said, right? But if I talk about it personally now, if you asked me this question a decade ago, what I wanted to do in life, my answer would have probably been, I'm going to become a brand manager for the leading brands in India, consumer centric. And by the time I'm 40, 45, I'm CEO, managing director of one of the publicly listed firms in the country. I mean, I was dead sure that I'm going to follow that path. I did my undergrad in marketing, focused on brand management, then did my post-graduation, focused on brand management and advertising. I mean, that was the career path that I wanted for myself. Worked with Titan as a product and brand manager for 3 years, saying that, okay, now I've set my stepping stones and this is the path I want to follow. But one fine morning, Mulendraji asked me, why don't you join the business? I mean, we could use somebody like you. And in my mind, I was like, I'm sure he's joking. So I told him, I don't think you can afford me. I don't think this business can afford me, so I'm not going to join you.
That's good.
Yeah, he said, why don't you give it a shot?
Yeah.
So he's like, why don't you give it a shot? I mean, you're like, what is the conversation that you have after that? Like, okay, what are you going to pay me, right? Like, yeah, fine. So I was just by chance then, I like, okay, fine, I'll leave Titan and I'll figure this out. I mean, I want to do something by myself. So I said, okay, fine, I'll leave Titan and I'll join you. With the condition that if I find something more appealing during the course of my stay there, I will pursue to do that and leave the business. That was the only condition I had. But it's been 6 years now since I've been there, and I don't think I've had an opportunity to look at any other business. This kept me involved, being an entrepreneur, formulating pricing strategies to figuring out HR issues. I have like issues at different tangents of the spectrum and solving them day in and day out. But it gives me a kick every day to solve these things. I'm grateful to everybody at my organization who supported me, made me understand the technical know-how of this field. Being a commerce graduate out and out, technical questions still frighten me. I try and learn, but they frighten me. I'm being very honest here. So again, I just thank my team for teaching me whatever they've taught me in this industry. And I owe it to them.
That's amazing, Pratik. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Seriously, no regrets? You were the brand manager. You were a Titan in the product team. Always dreamt that you would end up becoming a CEO in a corporate, and now running an entrepreneur in the HVAC industry. Yeah, sure. You've been
Now
honest.
the ambition is Yeah. So you missed the people, obviously, but now the ambition is to take this. Hopefully, by the time I'm 50, this is public. That is the ambition.
Awesome. Too good, man. Too good. Absolutely good. Yeah, you need to dream big, and that's the big take of this whole thing. So before we go into now, we're going to deep dive into each of these questions. We're going to ask some really difficult questions to them. So let's get into the whole deep diving. But and I'm going to invite Mihir to actually get into the next set of deep dive questions. So we just take a quick ad break, and we'll have both of them back onto the screen.
What's the most natural way to look beautiful? Just get 8 hours of perfect sleep. And what's the secret to perfect sleep? My Cruise VarioCool air conditioner. Its VarioCool inverter technology ensures there's no stickiness at night, while the Air Pro filters improve the air quality around you, creating the perfect conditions for deep sleep. With the new Cruise air conditioner, go get that beauty sleep. Cruise. Invest in yourself.
Yes, Anirudh. I think a lovely break we have had, and let's get into now the deep diving part of it. Okay, our industry is very techno-commercial and more towards the technical aspect of it. A lot of people, they miss this part of it. And your father, Gautam Baliga sir, I think one of the most technically sound person I have come across during my life, and he has been mentor to a lot of us. Be it on Ishre panel or be it on any panel, I think if any issues are there, he's the one which majority of us we go to, right? And you decided to get into this business, okay, which is a highly technical business. So what kind of difficulties did you face, and how did you decided to navigate around that? So that is a take what I want to understand from you.
Right. So yes, I mean the challenge for me is whenever I meet someone, because my dad has that kind of reputation in the industry, they always typically start with "ये तो बालिगा का बेटा है." So with that, what it becomes a bit difficult in the sense sometimes I like it, I like the respect, but also the responsibility that comes with it, it weighs down on you sometimes. But you have to just channelize that in the right way. So I feel that he has such a reputation that I cannot really afford to compare myself to him. I just have to play my own game. I cannot be under his shadows for too long. So I'll have to believe in my own abilities. So I think moving in a different direction with the RSK consultants in a way is a beneficial thing for me. But now I have the challenge of rising up to this reputation of Mr. Kulkarni, which is a different ball game altogether again. So I'm back to square one. So, anyways, I do feel the industry has a scope for a lot of different people to do things their own way. I think that with my business management background, I think I can have a different or a diverse perspective into the business other than my dad or let's say Mr. Kulkarni, who are basically technocrats, as you already described them. So in their times of business, it was more of word of mouth and relationship management and things like that. There's nothing. They were too focused on things like marketing, HR, and sales, and all those things were a bit immaterial those days. So hopefully, with these kind of things coming in, and I can maybe shift the business focus to be and have a better balance in between the management and the technical aspect of it. But at the end of the day, you have to be able to independently provide your clients successful design solutions. And once you start doing that, you will be out of the shadows of your previous generation. Even though you want to, or you'll be tempted to seek advice from them on a regular basis, you have to keep on trying to go away from that and try to do things independently and keep learning from your mistakes. And I think after a while you will be able to successfully manage on your own and get out of their shadows.
Anirudh, so well said. In fact, you answered even my next question I was going to ask about RSK sir. And trust me, you have embarked a journey, where you will be going from knowing as Gautam Baliga's son, where somewhere I would love to see that smiling face when one fine day someone tells Gautam Saab, are you Anirudh Baliga's father? That will be the most satisfying day he will ever see in his life. Trust me, I've seen that with my father also, and I've seen that journey. So I'm very sure with the thought of clarity and the way you're taking it forward, these guys have built an empire, and you guys are just creating it, putting systems into it, and rather than going from a owner driven organization, now you're going towards a system driven organization. Thank you so much for that thought. On that thought, let me get in Roshan, if Roshan is here.
Hi, Meher.
Yes,
Ji, how are
Roshan.
you?
Bilkul, bilkul. Ji, Roshan ji. Good to see you, bhai. So, Roshan, my question to you is, knowing Paras ji, my guru, one person whom I really look up to, and what vision this gentleman had. In the days of when we talk of huge brands which were around, he came up with a brand of his own.
True.
And जिगरा चाहिए boss यार. I'm going to talk in Hindi English. इसके ये करने के लिए जिगरा चाहिए.
Correct.
There were a lot of, if you want me to call assemblers who were there, they died their natural death, but this particular brand stayed there. So now tell me something. I think you have your expertise, in marketing and communication. How are you driving this brand from, same question what I asked Anirudh, I'm going to ask you, from a person driven to a system driven, and how do you intend to take it?
Right. So, thanks, Meher. I will say this for sure, that it's not easy to convert a traditionally managed family business into professionally managed business. I think initial days, so I don't come from an MBA background, so maybe possibly it may be easier for someone who's with a business administration background. But what I've always tried to do is try to bring focus into what we do, and try to how do we say put things down on a piece of paper, or at least put the steps down, and then we ensure that those steps are being followed. Coming to the brand side, I think hats off to my dad for what he's done, what he's created, and what he's continuing to create in terms of inspiring people through Rata or through the company. And I think one thing is clear, that for all of us here and whoever is listening to us as part of the next generation, I don't think we should even think that we can come close to our fathers, but we should have to believe in ourselves that we have to create an image separate, or that is complementing them. So since day one, I think when I've joined the business, I've been very clear that I think my father has a different set of strengths. The senior management has a different set of strengths. What value additions am I going to get to make this an organization? Otherwise, it's just going to be a single person making decisions. One more thing from the decision point of view, we've tried to do is decentralized power in some aspects. It's been harder than usual, I will say that, but definitely after seeing few positive results, then I think the trust is a very important factor in family businesses. So I think that when that comes across, I think then it's easier for us to sort of decentralize and systemize at least that department of that division of that particular project. So yeah, that's what I would like to say on your question.
Roshan, very, very well answered. And I think we all can relate to that, because, decentralizing is something which is very difficult to do. I think perhaps Ajit and me, both of us are, smiling at this because you have done it at Rata, and we know, how it would be for you also to do it. And we'll hold on to that. We'll get back to you on this particular question. But thank you so much for sharing this. And let me get Nisha in at this point.
Thanks, Meher.
Yeah, thank you so much. Nisha, Ajit said that. You are a role model for many. Okay. Daughter of Anil Nair, who is MD of VK Power Master. What a brand it is. Okay. Strong brand in, South India when it comes to the panel builders. Right? You've seen that this entire trade, or this entire field, is more male dominated, and that's what Ajit actually pointed out, that somewhere we said the fathers who have built the business. You would be perhaps the first person who would be known as a mother who has got the next generation in, with grace of God. I hope the next generation gets it. So what was your graduation of getting into the business? Were there any hindrances that got in? Were there any hitches? And how was the natural transition? That's what I would like to know from you, Nisha.
Mir, actually, we talk so much about gender neutrality and gender in the HVAC industry. To be very honest, I have not faced it in my whole journey over the past 6 years. If anything, I felt that it's always worked to my advantage, being the girl in the room or being, that one woman member. So it's always worked in my favor. But I'd certainly like to highlight that where I do find women, I mean, there are a lot of women in the HVAC industry, right? It's you will find a lot of women in planning, procurement, in consultancy, but where you really find women probably lacking is as entrepreneurs or in leadership roles. So I'm really hoping that with time, we have more women in leading leadership roles. So I hope I address that gender bit of it. With regard to the company itself, so when I joined, it was again, we did many things. So what I primarily tried to do is structure these verticals into three, and then and expand those horizons of where we could move. And the thing about this industry is it's constantly changing. You cannot hold on to one skill set that you have. It gets outdated very quickly. I mean, gone are the days where our fathers did one trade for 60 years and they were very good at it, right? Like today, like if by in all studies, every 6 years your skill set gets obsolete, and so the industry also changes. That's how technology is playing such a big part. So the one of the key ideas was to integrate these verticals and expand those horizons within those verticals. Yeah, so I hope I answered your question.
Absolutely, Nisha. And I mean, I'm literally smiling because we had this one of the business Chunautiyaan where we had a lot of women entrepreneurs who were part of this entire show, and every one of them said on this gender neutrality that somewhere being a woman has been an biggest strength for them, and in terms of breaking the barriers, because I mean, people actually look up to you. That is what is working very well. And thank you so much, Nisha, for being part of the trade. I mean, we are proud to have you as one of our, forerunners or a torchbearer or a flag bearer. Thank you so much, Nisha.
Thank
Let
you.
me get in Pratik. Hey, Pratik.
Hi, man.
By getting heads off, I mean, listening to your story, from a corporate background to get into a trade background, I think it is a very big step. And the kind of vision what you are having is simply amazing. So tell me something. Nisha right now just said that, the trade is continuously changing. There are disruptive technologies which are coming in. There are ways of doing business which are changing. What are the threats that you see to this trade, particularly to the trading business? Have you actually discussed this with your dad, and what is the solution around it, or what are your plans how to go about it?
So, like any business, right? In terms of threat or competition, they exist. What Nisha rightly said, change is one thing that is constant, and if we don't keep pruning ourselves, we are likely going to become extinct. And if that were to happen, I don't think my children will be able to be here, right? So obviously, I want them to be here, and to be there, be here in good capacities, and be able to work well. So in terms of threat, yeah, we've had a lot of dinner table conversation. What is it that we need to do, right? Uh, Being in the trading business of a trade community, right? It is predominantly owner driven, where the owner felt or feels that I'm going to do everything by myself, because he or she believes that they get their best results if they are occupied with that work. They don't trust somebody else to do a job better than them. And maybe it worked well for the longest time. Maybe they didn't have the resources back then to do something about it. Maybe they didn't have the talent to deploy. Multiple factors. I'm not going to complain what they did was wrong. I'm just going to say that, as Nisha said, we need to keep evolving, right? How are you going to evolve to ensure that your business sustains? And as I said earlier, and what you said about me, that I believe that a business has to run successfully without any individual involvement. It has to just keep running, functioning like a well-oiled machine, right? So in terms of how do we analyze these threats, right? Like apart from competition that is going to keep coming up, it's always going to be there, right? Honestly, we've discussed both vertical, forward and backward integrations. how do we figure with the scale that we already operate at, how can we become bigger and better at it? This is one of the things that we keep discussing. We understand in terms of the trade, the economics of, say, for example, a supply and demand, right? And there is a lot of demand, and sometimes what we don't have is the ability to be able to meet the demand because we don't have those processes in place. We don't have that vision to scale. Why should I be limited only to a Bangalore or only a Karnataka or only South India? What if I were to do the same trading business everywhere in the country? What am I supposed to do? So these are the conversations that we deal with, and how do we go about those? So, I mean, I think there are 3 steps that all of us could follow if they were in my situation. We've had to first and foremost, we need to empower our workforce. That wasn't happening. That needs to happen, because those are the guys who are going to take your business forward. We need to be an oiled machine where people come in, stay there. Hopefully, I'm not talking about attrition, but I want to keep adding people to the organization, right? Because they are your biggest strength. Your ERPs have to make your life simpler and not miserable. Your ERPs need to work for you and not the other way around. They need to give you what you want to see. They have to show you the true picture of your business. Not like, मैंने पीछे एक पेपर पे लिख लिया था, मैं इस सेल पे इतना पैसा बनाऊंगा, मैं खुश हो गया. No, it's not that. It's how much time and effort are you investing in those systems to enable you to scale up your organizations, and how do I say it? These practices need to keep evolving. You can't just believe that with one individual or 2 individuals that you have employed, you're going to scale multifold. When Ajit said, you want to grow 20x or 30x, how are you supposed to do that? Not with 2 people. You can't do that. You need to employ your capital in a way that is best suitable to your business and the objectives that you have for your business, right? So you can't figure out, okay, I've invested so much of capital in my business and this is the return I'm going to get. No, it's not that. It is about how much you've invested in the processes and how those processes can help you eliminate, or rather be wary of any threat that is coming to you, so that you're in a better space compared to everybody else around you. And being the second generation, I have this ability to see it from an outsider's perspective. I'm not an insider, for the lack of a better term. I'm still an outsider to the business. I didn't start it, but I have this to me, and I know that there are certain practices that I have taken up from my stints elsewhere, and hopefully I'm able to use them and scale up this business.
I think Pratik very, very well answered. I think your takeaway from what you said was that don't be a bottleneck to your own business. Learn to delegate, learn to automate, and at the same time, keep on evolving with the time. That is the best part, and I love that vision and I love that clarity. Thank you so much, Pratik. Let me get in Anirudh again, and I think move forward. Anirudh, I think one of the biggest challenge what a generation 2 entrepreneur faces is stepping out of the shadows of the first generation. A lot of our end clients, they are very comfortable talking to, in your case, you join RSK. So RSK sabse hi baat karenge. They feel that their solution will only come from RSK. Or be it you are part of Opel. So, they will always insist, no, yaar, I will talk only to Maliga Saab. I have faced it, when, initially I joined, even after 10 years of business, there were a few clients who would insist on talking only to my dad. So, how do you step out of it, and how do you counter that, and how do you approach that? Anirudh, you're muted.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Yeah, so obviously it has been a challenge for me because it has all the things you have said have been applicable. But sometimes I just want to firstly step back and be grateful for a lot of things that I've received on a platter. So one thing is the reputation itself of the firm, then a strong team, strong system, or structure, or whatever you'd like to call it, and a strong client base. So you have received a lot of things that you need to be grateful for, and you got a head start that maybe a lot of people envy. And that is very important for me to realize before I only think about the challenges. The next part is that, yes, of course, I have to accept that there is going to be resistance from people, let it be architects, clients, or my own team members who have had a great working relation with Mr. Kulkarni. They would insist that no, we want to talk to him, and when he talks with his expertise, and he talks with a lot of years of experience behind him. So I can talk with expertise, but I it's going to take time for me to build that experience. So I have to let that take its own time. But in the meanwhile, we have been fortunate in a way, since I've started, in a way, due to the pandemic. What has happened is a lot of the things have happened online to begin with. And since the meetings have been taking place online, Mr. Kulkarni still has been able to get involved in some of the important discussions from the comfort of his home. But definitely going forward, me and my team members have to gain the confidence of all the clients that we can successfully provide the same kind of design solutions and the kind of expertise that he used to possess. And it will take time, of course, but we have to assure them that, of course, they're there for our technical guidance when we are stuck. But every day you have to try to get out of their shadow, as I mentioned earlier, and try to become a bit more independent every day. And me and my team, as we slowly start to mature, we want to be able to maintain that same high level of standard that Mr. Kulkarni has set for the business. And of course, we have to accept that this transition over the next few years is going to be a tough one, and you have to just get on with it. And you get a lot of things like from people saying that, "Arey, isko to sab diya hua hai ready made," but you just have to take it in the right spirits, and you have to make the most of the situation and move on.
Anirudh, very, very well said. And I mean, I can so relate with you because I've gone through that, you know. I mean, I'm very sure Ajit in the background also must be smiling at this, you know. To create your own identity, you know, with stalwarts who are towering around you, it's not an easy job. And I think you are doing a great job, Anirudh. I think keep it up. I think your approach is absolutely correct, and that's the best way. And don't feel disheartened ever. That's what the message what you are giving. There are going to be at times comparison, but these comparisons are always for the betterment. Thank you so much for that lovely answer, Anirudh. Let me get in Roshan here. Uh, Roshan, another very big challenge for Generation Next or Generation 2 entrepreneurs is, you know, your dad would have had his own core team, people who would have been with him for very long time, you know, and suddenly now you have a next generation who comes in with fresh ideas, changes, new systems, and it's not easy for them to accept that.
Correct.
How do you approach this entire issue? This becomes one of the biggest challenge according to me for the next generation to come in, and your answer would be, you know, really great for many people to understand how to handle this nuance.
So I'll talk from my personal experience. Very valid challenge, which I think as youngsters with the kind of, how do you say, zeal and ideas that we have, and we want to conquer the world, right? So of course, I also entered with those kind of ideas. But one thing that helped, and one thing from, personal experience has been that if as a newbie in a semi or semi-large organization, if you can prove yourself with one or two or three meaningful projects, automatically you have half the battle won. Rather than initially what used to happen was कि हमने तो आइडिया दे दिया, अरे मैंने कहा था ये करना चाहिए, हम कर नहीं पाए. तो एक ये तरीका होता है स्टार्टिंग में, बिकॉज लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स इन द बिजनेस आर एलियन फॉर अस, कि हमने पहले वो कभी किया नहीं है, हमको एक्सपोजर नहीं है, तो वी से कि नहीं हम कर सकते हैं, वी कैन ट्राई, व्हाई डोंट वी ट्राई दिस. बट वो जब नहीं होता, देन वी इट्स वेरी इजी फॉर अस टू से ओ आई डिडंट हैव द चांस टू डू इट. बट जो आपके कंट्रोल में है, जो व्हाट यू कैन ऐड वैल्यू टू, यू आइडेंटिफाई दोज 1 2 3 थिंग्स. With time, 3 months, 6 months, 7 months, whatever, maybe a year, you ensure कि आपने जो कहा था वो हुआ और उसका रिजल्ट उनको दिखा within the company. अच्छा, by the way, it's very hard to convince people by within the company. If someone external sees that change, and comes to the people within the company and gives that feedback, again, job well done, you're on the right direction. One more way that worked was, I would say, if I'm not an expert at something, let's say let's say finance, for example, but I helped some element of finance to kind of streamline or to go faster, or I gave him some tech support, or I gave him some ideas, and I helped him implement it. Not just gave it to him on his platter, helped him implement it. Also, that helps a little buy-in कि ठीक है यार, ये हमारे फील्ड से नहीं है, but थोड़ा लॉजिक तो अप्लाई करके थोड़ा सा मेरा काम आसान हो गया. And it takes time, no doubt about that, getting a buy-in from internally as well as externally in I mean, our friends' cases here. But you have to be patient and you have to be persistent. I think the key is persistence, because anytime we give up, it's very easy for this team to say, "Sir, ये तो कर नहीं पाएंगे, बोलते हैं, but कर नहीं पाते." So I think that's the only way I would say is to kind of like prove yourself right in key projects or key roles, get people's buy-in, and slowly the acceptance will definitely come.
Absolutely. I think, Roshan, you hit the nail on its head. I think acceptance, particularly, is the biggest aspect. And when that endorsement comes from a third person for the team, it is always easy for them to accept it. So on that note, let me get Nisha in. And
Thanks, Beji.
thank you, Roshan, for lovely answer. Nisha, another very, big issue which comes, age factor. Ours is a very technical field. And you said you have been part of the business in 6 years, and your dad has been part of this business for many years. Perhaps you have given a better solution, a more technically sound solution. फिर भी वो सामने वाला customer, he'll always have in mind, यार बच्ची है यार, इतना क्या समझ के बोलेगी, How do you deal with that situation, and how do you mitigate that?
Mir, actually, the product that we deal with also, it's extremely technical. It's not a standard product. It's custom built to every project and very specific to an application. So there's a lot of technical aspect that comes into different stages of that product life, right? From pre-tender and sales and manufacturing. So especially I tend to interact with a lot of these stakeholders, right? From consultants to contractors, and finally even our own shop floor team, our vendor partners. So initially it was the case. I mean, you tend to not be taken seriously, and it did bother me. I would get upset and agitated about it, but I think over time I've learned to chill, and I think over time I've also worked really hard, doubly hard, to probably work on that side of the technical side of things. So with time, people tend to start respecting you, your effort, your hard work. And again, I've been very fortunate, like when I'm interacting with people from, say, a certain planning department, and if I can help them, they take it in the right spirit. And if I cannot help them, I don't pretend to be a know-all, and I would suggest, that's the best way to go. If I do not know something, I will tell them, let me check with the right person, and I'll come back to them, and I'll make sure I go back to them, which is why they probably still reach out to me, and I go back and help them with whatever is the challenge that has happened. But I think the key would be over time to just relax, work doubly hard on whatever it is that you're lacking, and over time build confidence in your own self and skill, and then take it to your customer. And I think they also appreciate that. So and I've never tried to be the technical master, but my intent has always been to help them. Yeah,
I think very, very true. Yeah. When you talk about helping, it always works. And when you say that, I think at times I've seen in business when you act a little vulnerable, and you say, I'm not master of all, but this is the best solution what I can provide you. Majority of time, they will definitely accept it, and it always works in the best way. So on that note, thank you so much for this lovely answer. Let me get in Pratik. Pratik, one of the biggest challenge what we face today, okay, when we are a generation 2 entrepreneur, and you have to, get in digitization as well as try to do the delegation. And the first generation has done everything on their own. उनसे वो delegation majority, I mean, I'm not talking about your particular business, but majority of the businesses I've seen, the first generation will try to do everything on their own. And next generation, what I've seen, if they have to upscale themselves, they need to scale up the business. Delegation and digitization, the two things which you even mentioned when we talked previously. I think, how do you do that, and what are the challenges what you face?
So, as I said earlier, right, the earlier generation essentially played their cards extremely close to the chest. For the lack of a better term, they would only even keep the two of clubs with them, not even show that off, right? Uh, when it comes to digitization and delegation, right, being an outsider, uh, not familiar with the technical aspects of the business, right? Running a business versus selling the product, I think, are two completely different things. More often than not, in the trade community, that is being merged, but they're two completely different things. And as an outsider, I understood that. Okay, maybe I can run the business, but how do I sell this product? I don't know how to do that. So I had to, for me to able to delegate and digitize this, I had to understand the process of this business. How did this industry work? What was I supposed to take away from here? Could I use my past experience from somewhere else? So when I joined, I think for around 3-4 months, I would just sit at the retail shop floor doing nothing, just observing how my sales team, my retail sales team, talk to the clients. Nothing else. I mean, there would be simple problems. I mean, which I believe today are simple, but to me at that time there's this rocket science. Like, wow, he had such a difficult proposition, and my team solved it in like less than 30 seconds. I mean, they have to be the greatest sales team on earth for to give solutions this so fast and so easily, right? So I learned those things first. The advantage of learning those things was I could then couple them with how to run the business, right? And then people in my team would start listening to me, or I mean, they would just at least pay attention to my suggestion. Not that they would have implemented fully, but they would at least start paying attention. Now, okay, maybe Prateek is saying this. Why not giving it a try? I mean, he's working hard. He's trying to understand what we do, but let's figure out why he's saying what he's saying. Maybe it'll help us, right? So the primary issue that I faced with in terms of delegation was even though we were telling them to do things earlier, we weren't holding them accountable for their actions. There was responsibility without accountability. You would just say, okay, you can do this, but if it wasn't being done, you wouldn't, like pull them out saying that, why didn't you do this? You're like, okay, you do it next time. There was no accountability at all. That I felt was a big missing link. So what I had done at that time was we started having these Monday morning meetings for around 10 minutes before we began. Just figure out what happened in the previous week, what are the plans for this week, and what are those challenges that need immediate addressing so that we can have like a fantastic week ahead, right? I'll just give you a simple example. We had all these ERPs in place even before I had joined the business. We had these ERPs, but I would just observe my team how they would place orders. I mean, it was just ridiculous. I mean, you have everything sitting right in your system, but there would be like a manual stock count before they placed an order. And this was not only my organization, this was throughout the trade. I would talk to them like, I want to understand if there was a better way to do it. And they said, no, मतलब हमारे पास ERP है, but हम एक बार physical count करवा ही लेते हैं order देने से पहले. Like फिर ERP रखते क्यों आप लोग? What is the point, right? So we just made that a foolproof process. Now we have these stock taking audits on a bi-monthly basis, just to figure out if stock is matching physical versus system. And then now is this a system-driven exercise where the system tells us what you need to order and what you don't need to order. So, I mean, that is, I think, a good thing for us. Now, another thing that we face as traditional sales organizations, placing orders has been ridiculous for us. Not us. By us, I mean the entire trade community. I had this notion that, with the advent of technology and everything that we do today, like we're shopping for our own things online, why can't our customers buy from our website or our application, right? So I did this survey with more than 30-40 dealers across South India, like saying that I am going to create this portal. This is a demo version of it. This will have all the details that you need to place an order. Why can't you place an order from you? Instead of you calling up the representative, understanding what is the status of the order, would you be interested? You don't have to do anything else. You just need like to download this application or go through the website and order it. Nothing else changes for you except the fact that you don't talk to an individual. You just speak with the system, right? The funny part was I heard नहीं इसमें तो मेरे को ज्यादा काम करना पड़ेगा, मैं तो अभी सेल्स मैनेजर को फोन करता हूँ, वो ऑर्डर लिख लेता है और काम हो जाता है. But that same person will call that sales guy 10 times for 10 different products. I mean, they don't understand that you're wasting 10 minutes. I mean, 10 minutes every day to just do this. You could go home and place an order. Those are the systems that I wanted to deploy 3-4 years ago, but unfortunately that hasn't happened. But hopefully it will soon. Difficult, but not impossible. So I'll just like to borrow something that one of the greatest entrepreneurs of our time says, Mr. Bezos. It's still day one for digital and delegation in the HVACR trade industry.
Very, very well pointed, Pratik, and I don't see that day very far, because we are seeing that, I mean, a few of the disruptive kind of work what is already happening in the HVACnR industry, which has already gone digital, and people have started accepting it. I mean, I always give people example that when was the last you actually called up your travel agent and asked him to book a ticket? Majority of us, we just go online and just book a ticket. It is as simple as that, and this is where even HVAC and our trade is moving towards. So good, I think you have taken that step forward, and I can see that vision and I can see that mission, and I'm so happy that whatever you have been delegating, you're delegating with a lot of reviews and a lot of responsibility. So superb, I think lot of take home from what you have just shared. Let me get Anirudh on this point. Anirudh, I'm going to ask you one very basic question. Okay, very simple question, not at all difficult. Why HVAC and our industry? What is it that drove you towards this industry?
Okay, so keeping today's scenario in mind, I think at least even though we do not qualify as essential service, at least HVAC is essential to essential services. And even during the pandemic and so on, HVAC is required no matter what. Pharma needs it, let's say healthcare needs it, or all the industries need HVAC. So, and given that India is a developing country, there's a lot of expansion, growth, and a lot of construction and projects happening. There's always going to be, also keeping in mind the geography and the climate of India, there's always going to be an increasing need for HVAC. So the fact that you don't have to worry about the longevity of the business and also a risk of it being obsolete itself is a great thing in itself. The other aspect is that I like and dislike the fact that the industry is so vast. On a bad Monday morning, you can wake up and feel like it is so complex and there's so much to learn. You're like, अरे बहुत कुछ सीखना है अभी तो इंडस्ट्री में आधा ही पता है मुझे. But on a positive day, you'll feel that the industry has a lot to offer. There's a scope in the industry for a lot of different diverse businesses to coexist with different USPs, different offerings, and different way of operating. So the fact that everyone can have a different USP. So there's a market for, let's say, quality work. There's a market for rule of thumb work. There's a market for price competitive work. There's a market for high precision design. So everyone at the end of the day gets a good slice of the cake. So that's the reason also I like the HVAC industry, and the fact that there is a lot of scope for innovation in the industry as well. So it gives you a freedom from a design point of view, and you can always take pride that your influence or your decisions can have an impact on many crucial aspects. Let it be like the environment, indoor air quality, occupant health, and all the big terms that they use. And finally, the costs involved in big billion-dollar companies, or the energy consumptions, or let's say the bottom line of the company itself. So when you are able to successfully provide design solutions, and given that the stakes are so high, then you get a sense of satisfaction that you're doing a really good job and it is relevant and important. So I really like that about our industry.
Absolutely, so well said, Anirudh. And I mean, I totally agree with you. एक तो ये यार thumb rule वाला जो अपना industry का है ना यार, कुछ करो यार. This generation has to change यार. This unfortunately what people forget is that the sizes of the thumb of every individual is different. And उसका कोई rule नहीं है. So this is something what you have said and very
See,
right. And
I do agree that it's a bit annoying that maybe rule of thumb can also do a good business, but it's a fact, and you can also look at it in a positive way that everyone can coexist, and the consultant next to me can be having a completely opposite model than mine, but he's also doing well. His business is also feeding a lot of families, so it's a good thing in
Absolutely.
a way.
Anirudh, you said it so well. I mean, this is the diversity of our business, and everyone has got place in it. And the rate at which we are going to grow, I mean, I feel it is yet going to reach out to much greater heights and much bigger scale. And I think on that thought, let me get Roshan in. Thank you, Anirudh, for that lovely industry by HVACnR industry.
My pleasure.
So, रोशन यार अभी मैं अनुरुद्ध से वही बात कर रहा था कि I mean we are going to grow at a massive rate as per India National
Right.
Cooling Plan. If you see, we are going to grow 8 times in next 2 decades. This is
Right.
the growth that we are talking, right? You're in an manufacturing field, right?
Right.
And one of the most difficult field to be in. I mean that's what very complex field because according to me everything gets into it, somewhere.
Correct.
How do
Correct.
you see future of manufacturing in HVACnR industry?
I think on a lighter note, we've been waiting for that explosion of the AC industry that has been promised to us for the last, I don't know, so many years. But I would say overall, now with the initiative that the government is taking in terms of currently reducing our reliance on import, at least when it comes to our sort of section that we operate in, which is your complete air conditioners. So that's a good sign. Overall, I would say manufacturing in this industry has to be on a specialized basis. So let's say it's currently competition, I think exists in every sector. But if you can identify what you can be good at, what you can add value, what is profitable for you, I think that's the way to go. My other side of the philosophy that I have and that I try to apply is also that you don't need to manufacture everything in-house. Simple as that. If there is someone who's better at it, who can be more cost effective than you can produce on your own scale, better is you actually outsource that, allows you to focus on something else that you're better at. So I would say keep both things in mind and then decide what we should be doing. In fact, personally, in our case, slowly over the years, as the manufacturing of completely built aircon units moved to China, we were impacted definitely in a big way. Our complete business solution that we used to offer to Blue Star, I think over about within a span of 5 to 6 years, it completely went to zero. And now you suddenly see that wave again rising with the likes of multiple OEMs in the space, two listed in fact, and the others are still, I mean, I think at some point they will list themselves. So depending on whichever, so we believe that we should specialize in maybe the commercial side, where there is space, where there is a customization option available, and depending on कि हमारा sales channel कौन सा है. तो अगर sales channels में हम अगर और strong हो सकते हैं without minimal investment, I think get into that, and then of course develop the entire basket within that, so that at least a consultant or that particular institutional buyer or my distributor is dependent on me for that. Because I feel with manufacturing, of course, every year they will cut me on price. They will say, नहीं sir, और आप कम करो price और cost effectively manufacture करो. ये देखो ये हो रहा है बाहर. तो उस पेस पे मैं तो ये सोचता हूँ कि focus on your key parts, but ensure that you have the right partners to support you to be cost effective for your end customer.
I think very, very well said. And what you are talking is collaborating and adapting. I think that is the best part what you are talking about.
Yeah, kind
and
of
a very
true.
very sensible approach towards it, because everything you can't manufacture in house. It is practically not possible. And I think what you have pointed out is a very good thing. And yes, we are slated to grow, and I think I am going to see more and more, products coming from your stable. I'm very sure about it, Roshan. Keep on doing the great work what you have been doing. And when you're talking about growth, let me get Nisha on that point here. And yeah, Nisha, see, I was just talking to Roshan about, India National Cooling Plan, which says that, I mean, our industry is slated to grow 8 times in next 2 decades. Like, you are in a business. So what sort of diversification or scaling up you are looking at to reach out to these kind of demands or reach out to these kind of upscaling?
So Mihir, I think like the journey of our organization in itself has been testament, if I may say so, to the growing demand of that has occurred over the past year. We started off as a small contracting company, and then we started hearing MEP coming into picture, and we soon realized that bit is going to get obsolete. Then we started our own manufacturing, and then we have a lot of strategic alliances going for us. So the and now even today, I mean, you're already hearing about the integration of services coming together. It's no longer just alone a HVAC or a electrical or a plumbing vertical. There is at some point an integration happening, and sooner or later that is going to happen. So keeping all this in mind, we always try to plan ahead. I think my father is probably the best example when you talk about disruptive tech. He's always thinking about 10 years ahead. So we have huge plans when it comes to our panel manufacturing. Just we were probably our strength was in HVAC and automation, but over time now we're diversifying into electrical, bringing the whole package to the forefront. And I have a lot to thank my principal partners for that as well, because they're so innovative and they're always trying to encourage us to accept these. And India is probably behind, when it comes to adopting tech. We're always 10 years behind what is happening in Europe or the US. But thankfully, things are changing. I mean, clients are opening up to this. So, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, over time. So in keeping the expansion in mind, so this is what we've done, the integration going forward. And like you mentioned, the economy is going to grow. I mean, we've had a couple of, I mean, the past 3-4 years have been quite slow and difficult for every business. But the hope is tomorrow is going to be brighter and and it's very satisfying as an entrepreneur, as a young adult, to be part of this growth. I mean, when you contribute to your country, you are generating employment, you pay GST, you pay so many other taxes. So in a large way, it is very satisfying at the end of the day to be part of this growth. And I'm hoping that good things are ahead of us. And the past 2-3 difficult years, will make up, and we should move ahead with positivity and optimism.
Absolutely. Very well said, Nisha. I think this is the way forward. And I think even this pandemic, one thing what it has taught us is, there is hope. And I think everyone can survive, irrespective of whatever is thrown at our end. And I'm very sure as a race, as a this will make us all a much better human. And end of the day, we will see much more technology oriented things what are happening, the kind of adapting what we all have done in such a short time, the entire nature of business, like I very rightly pointed out by Anirudh, the face to face meeting suddenly is taken over by these virtual meetings. And today you're sitting in Bangalore, I'm sitting in Mumbai, Anirudh is in Pune, Ajit is at other places, different places. We all are still interacting, and we have people from all over the world who are watching us. This is only because of the technology. So thank you so much for that lovely answer. And I think
if I'd quickly like
yeah, please go ahead.
I think the pandemic just kind of digitized our industry for the better. Like probably the effort that would have taken decades just happened in 2 weeks after that first lockdown was announced.
It totally changed the way we communicated, I think, and that's the best part about it. And on that thought, let me get in Pratik. Thank you, Nisha, for that lovely answer. Pratik, talking of the communication, you must be communicating with a lot of your clients, in the market. हम जो एक typical trade market की बात करते हैं और हम हमारे customers के साथ में बात करते हैं. What is this that you would like to change the way communications are happening right now? How you communicate with them, and what changes do you suggest, or what are you looking towards that how the trade should move in terms of these changes?
Oh, plenty. I don't think this program will suffice for me to be able to answer that question. Uh, but as I said earlier, right, the business itself is completely owner driven, owner operated. Uh, I believe that the owner operators have this thing called FOLO, fear of losing out. They believe that if they don't actively participate in the business, they are going to lose out on the profits that they could possibly earn, or they'll not be able to maximize their profits if if they delegate, right? So that's one thing that I'd like to change. Like, don't become um, become something, or rather start to delegate. In fact, what I've heard from a lot of trade members is, I don't want my next generation to be a part of this. मैं अपने बच्चों को इसमें नहीं लाऊंगा, बहुत ज्यादा काम करना पड़ता है और जो दाम है वो मिलता नहीं है, तो मैं तो नहीं लेके आऊंगा, वो बाहर बेटर कुछ करेगा. So that is what I've heard verbatim from a lot of people from the trade community. They're like, हाँ 15-20 साल में मैं बिजनेस बेच दूंगा किसी को, and then I'll just retire. I don't want my children to work as hard as I'm possibly working right now. So, I mean, that's one thing that could definitely change, right? Apart from that, the various operations that happen, again, right? Not a lot of members of the trade community have implemented systems. They're still by rote. It's still on book and paper. I see big businesses, big turnovers, invoices still pen and paper. I've seen that, not talking about South India or North India, but just across the country, I've seen that happen. Even today, I've seen their invoices and like, what is happening? I mean, you guys are making so much money, but it's still on pen and paper. What is the point of all of this, right? In terms of communication amongst the members, definitely this pandemic, the only good thing that has possibly happened is acceleration of accepting digital technology. We're able to, as you said earlier, we're able to do this sitting here, sitting in Bangalore, sitting in Bombay. In fact, the pandemic has accelerated communication between trade members, which used to happen, like at least in Bangalore, I would say maybe once a year. But we're talking more often now, saying that, okay, what are we going to do? How is this going to impact our businesses? What are the pitfalls, and how do we ensure that we avoid all these pitfalls, both personally and professionally? What are the things that we ought to do for our employees and all of that? So it's more collaborative in nature because of the pandemic. I feel that people are asking their contemporaries or competition for opinions, which I don't think used to happen earlier. It was okay, owner ने decide कर दिया, काम हो गया, बस बाद में कुछ करने का नहीं हमको. So I mean, that was how it used to happen. Yeah, that's about it. I mean, there are plenty of changes I'd like to happen, but most important would be decentralize and start investing in manpower. Like how you invest in your other stock and invest in your furniture and making your office beautiful. Just all of us in the trade community need to invest in better manpower. That's one thing that I'd like to change.
I think superb answer, Pratik. And before I hand over to Ajit, I think let me get one googly for every one of you. Ajit, can I have every one of them on the screen, please? Okay, here is a question, very simple question I would like to ask, because I have been asked this question. I've gone through this, and I ask this question to every second generation entrepreneur. Okay, you communicate with your father, okay, at home in a particular manner, what we discuss on. But when the same father is in the business, okay, who is your senior, what is the level of communication and how do you communicate? And a lot of times when both of you don't see eye to eye on the same topic, that's what I would like to learn from you. How do you reach out to that, and how do you mitigate that, or how do you go about it? Who would like to take this question first?
I'll go first.
Yeah,
Actually,
please go ahead, Nisha.
My father and I, we have, I don't know, it's not a very paternal bond alone. I mean, he's my father, but he's also my mentor, my boss, my best friend. We discuss everything under the sun. We spend so much time together at work, at home. We tend to travel so much together. So we are always discussing work and even life. So it's a very healthy relationship. And there, of course, we also tend to disagree on things. And then you'll be like, you're so impatient. And I'm like, no, you don't listen to me. So we do have those discussions as well. But it's a very, very healthy bond that I share with him. And it's very special.
Isha, lovely answer. Miss India crown goes to you. No,
I'd like to add to this.
Okay, I'll tweak this question. I'll tweak this question. Let me ask you other way around. Okay, whenever there is a particular point, where you are discussing a point, who takes over, a father or an entrepreneur?
What was that question again?
Yeah.
So I'll ask this question: if there is a point of a discussion where you both have a very conflicting views, normally the person who is sitting in front of you that time is a father or an entrepreneur or your senior. Let me put it that way.
It's always an entrepreneur. I think he takes the best call, keeping what is the best interest of the company, of the team. And I think it's at the end of the day, it's always an entrepreneurial call. But we will have a good discussion about it.
Great, super. What about you, Roshan?
I would actually, I'm the type who will challenge the decision in ways that possibly Pratik would have. I mean, I've been hearing him, and I think he has a lot of challenges that he was facing. I think it's simple. Just the more you challenge it, the more discussions will happen around it, and then eventually, maybe not the first, but maybe the fourth time, if you can prove it in a different fashion, which I always do. I mean, I try and use data, whatever is available, or some real examples कि देखो ऐसा हुआ था, कि देखो last time ऐसा हुआ था, आपने देखा था, अब इस बेस पे decision लीजिए. ये नहीं कि आपको जो लगा ठीक है, but I've also learned it the other way. Some of those challenging arguments or discussions, actually sometimes they're unable to communicate why they think like that. And I think that is something that we need to learn, which is an element of maybe intuition or experience. So just the balance of that will help you, but I think definitely challenge it in whatever way you can, if you really feel strongly about it. Either ways, you will learn through the mistake or you'll be a success.
Very, very, very well said. What about you, Pratik?
So it's there are two ways, right? So if I'm having a professional discussion at home, it's always the father. It doesn't matter. It's an office discussion, but if it's at home, he's the father. So you just got to say it with a hint or all of the humility that you possibly can, right? At home. But in the workplace, it doesn't matter. As Roshan said, like I have all pieces of information that I stitch together and then take it to him. And then, I mean, being in the business around 5 or 6 years, hopefully now he trusts me for me to take my decision and doesn't question or look over my shoulder. I don't have to look over my shoulder every time. Papa, dekh to nahi rahe ki main kya kar raha hu. So hopefully that's not happening. But I think all of us on this panel are privileged that we can afford to make some mistakes. We can afford to make expensive mistakes and not worry about those. As you said, right, we gain experience from those mistakes. I don't think our parents could afford to make those mistakes. At least I'm sure my parents couldn't, but I can afford to make those mistakes without worrying too much, without losing too much sleep over it. I mean, because the intent is for the betterment of my company, and with that intent, I don't think any parent or your senior or your boss is going to hamper any decision that you take, because now he knows that you are talking in the best interest of the company. He might not agree to you, but as Roshan said, you make them realize that what you're doing is for the benefit of the entire company, and then which percolates down to your family at large. So yeah, that's it.
Very, very well said. And last but not the least, Anirudh. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
last but not the least, Anirudh.
In my case, it's the fact that me and my dad, we are both not very emotional people. So in at home and at work, it's a very professional relationship between us. And the fact that when you are new to something and you always come in with your ideas and you want to see change, you feel like, ये ऐसा नहीं होना चाहिए, this should be they should be better with technology. So many things you would like to change, but sometimes you have to take a deep breath and feel that their experience counts for something, and certain things are a certain way because of some reason that it might take us time to understand. So I have realized initially that I was very excited about like making a lot of changes, but I feel it is time to like consolidate on a lot of things that you have received on your platter. Take your time, be thankful for what you got, and then in the long run you can do whatever things that you are there's no stopping your growth and so on. So you have to look at the bigger picture. That's what I feel.
Superb answers. I think, guys, your thought process, your clarity is simply out of the world. And I can just share one thing. I think I share all your feelings because I shared cabin with my dad for 23 years of my life. Okay, and I think they are the ones who have got your back. Trust me. Today he's no longer with me physically, but a lot of times whenever I come to a decision making, for a minute I pull my chair back and I get into a position where I would think, how would my dad think of this particular situation? And a lot of times, invariably, I get the right answer from that. So superb. I think the answers what you guys have given is amazing. I think you are indeed role model for the next generation. I think without taking much of time, sorry, I just came in with a googly. I had to ask this. And over to Ajit, over to you, buddy.
Amazing, guys. Absolutely good. You know that fear of losing out follow? I just made a note of it. I'm going to actually use that in all my delegation trainings, with all my managers, everybody. Moment he opposes anything that I say, no, yeah, fear of losing out. Fear of losing out. I like that. That's awesome, man. So we just have about 10-15 minutes before we actually close this session. And I know it's been a great learning session. So quickly from you guys, Anirudh, HVAC consulting, what do you see the future for that entire business, and where do you see yourself maybe over the next 10 years?
See, first about the HVAC industry itself, I think Nisha pointed out rightly that it's moving towards a certain direction, which is complete MEP solutions. So from a consulting point of view, clients, architects, or whoever it is, project management companies, they don't want the headache of coordinating between so many different services in a building and so on. So they want a one-stop solution, so as they call it. So if you go shopping, you don't want to go to so many different places. You'll just go to one mall and try to buy everything that you want to buy. So I think that is one key aspect that we have to, even though we don't want to lose our HVAC core competence, we just have to stick to the trend that MEP solutions is what is required today. So you need to have a close collaboration with your electrical, plumbing, PHE, firefighting, and everything. And the other good aspect where the industry is heading is finally, I think we are moving beyond just initial project cost and price wars. And there are some more key aspects that are coming into consideration, like occupant health, indoor air quality, and some of these more important environment, climate change, all these more important aspects. So as a business, luckily we are already ahead of the game. We are already trying to provide innovative and energy efficient solutions. So we are going to continue on that path, and we just had to be these are the kind of things. And the other part that you mentioned, where do we see ourselves, as I already mentioned to Mir once while I was answering his question, uh, everyone talks about growth, and I just want to at the time consolidate on the reputation, on the quality of the work, on the high standards that have been set in the past. uh, we want the clients to still take us as seriously even if Mr. Kulkarni is not there in the business. So for me, the next few years is about consolidating all these things, and then of course there is no limitations to your growth after that once you are in a good position. I think there's a lot of scope in India in all tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities for a lot of projects. And then, of course, if you have good networks abroad, then the Middle Eastern and African markets for a consultant is very attractive.
Wow, amazing. Anirudh, one thing I can tell you, indoor air quality is completely forgotten in this country. We don't talk about it. Even every HVAC professional has given up on it. So we're all dependent. This industry is dependent on our next generation to bring it up very forcefully in even educating our customers that indoor air quality is just not about temperature. It's also all about indoor air quality. So that's going to be one big opportunity, and that's where this industry is going to depend on a lot of you guys. So good to hear that vision from your side. Roshan, you are actually a late, if I might say, an Indian brand in midst of global brands, and uh, let's be honest, our HVAC industry is all about the foreign brands, right? They're the big daddies
Right.
of the business, they control. Where do you see yourself? Yeah, you've taken on the big giants in this world to actually create a place for yourself. How do you see that coming in the years to come? Because that whole responsibility is going to come onto your shoulders, right?
Absolutely. So, I mean, easier said than done. We, in the residential space of aircon, I think we're about 30 plus brands. Cruise would be standing maybe in the top 20, top 15, depending on the region you go to. Initial days, we used to think that no, we have to be national, we have to be pan India. And of course, we tried that, pumped in a lot of investments into distribution, into warehousing, into all that. But now I mean, after the pandemic, of course, was tough. But over the years, on the business front, that I've learned is it's okay to be how do you say focused on certain regions where you can create a difference. The same philosophy that I was adding on the manufacturing front. So now we're clear that we want to be stronger where we are. So possibly you might call us a stronger player in South, a stronger player in West, but we have a presence, of course. So now online is helping. So Amazon is really helping Cruise expand to the northern market, Cruise expand to the eastern market. So we are not present. And let's say in the future, if we have distributors who are interested in the product, of course we have a customer base there. We can expand there. So one is get stronger into where we are, because we cannot shout as much as the larger MNCs can. Secondly, I would say is we're trying to differentiate ourselves on the way we communicate, on the way we position ourselves. So a lot of I think one of the challenges as Indian companies or Indian brands we face is how do we communicate better compared to all these bigger giants. मतलब इनके पास तो budgets है, agencies है, communication, मतलब बहुत कुछ है जो हमारे से ज़्यादा है. But एक philosophy is very simple. We have to find what the consumer wants. In our case, it can be my dealer, it can be my distributor, it can be my end customer, and speak to him in his language and sort of try and customize it to what he wants. जो maybe बड़े brands, they might take more time to do, हमको वो फटाफट करना है. तो अगर हमने वो फटाफट कर लिया, of course हमारा customer experience with that distributor or with that partner is automatically going to become better, because in India, fortunately, every region is different. So let's say someone from Bangalore possibly will not think the same way as a Delhi. So that is different. So that's why, I mean, one of these, somebody told me when the same question they asked, they were trying to pitch that, there is scope to grow, scope to scale. So they gave me the example of the ice cream industry. So in the ice cream industry, if you see, there are multiple regional players, but we have heard of those 5-6 names, which would be a Quality Walls or a Vadilal or one of them. But on the on the second rung, there are multiple players, because it being a seasonal product, two being regional manufacturers, they continue to be profitable. Now, so the challenge for us will be, how do we retain our individuality while being focused on certain areas and continue to become stronger? It's easier said than done, but I think it will take some time before we continue to be pan-India. But currently is to be stronger where we are.
Amazing, yeah. I mean, I guess that's the way it's got to be. Because see, one of the big guys, the biggest problems with big guys is, they're too huge, and that sometimes that size, while it's an advantage for them, also can work at a disadvantage. And you can be nimble-footed to actually play a disruptor's role, and that's where the entrepreneurial skill comes in, and that's where that opportunity lies. But also, you're already identified it and being niche and working on your strengths. Awesome, good takeaways, yeah. Nisha, I'm going to come back to again this whole gender thing, okay? And I'm saying this purposely because we talk a lot about gender neutrality, but it's all a farce in our industry, right? It's all just big talk. The truth is there's no gender neutrality which we practice in sincerity. It's not there. And I know a lot of members who are business owners who have got daughters. I don't think any of them are even thinking of getting them into business, right? At least the majority whom I have spoken to. You're a differentiator with that. What you say makes a whole of difference. What is the message to all those entrepreneurs who are listening to you and have got daughters who are still studying or who may want to do something in their life? What's your take for them?
I would just urge them to please, please, please encourage them, because I think that's the best gift you can give your child. I mean, it doesn't matter whether it's a girl or a boy, you have to give them that confidence and that self belief to do well. And today, if you do not do that, it's really going to fall apart. I mean, the roles that a woman was supposed to do, it's changed, and that's the best gift you can give your child. Make them confident, make them independent, and of course give them the liberty to pick their partner as well, because I think that's been a huge part of my life, because I got to choose my partner. I married into a family that have been equally supportive, so is my husband. So it's really helped me. And I think another lesson would be to teach them how to accept failure. It's okay to fail. I mean, I think that would be common for all, because as a culture, we tend to take failure way too seriously. So I think today, I think even our goals are changing, right? Previously, it was a lot had to do with money. Today, it's mental health, well-being, finding success and meaning in what you do. That's another probably, uh, I don't know if I could call it advice to all the senior members. And ethics, of course, again, it holds a huge role, and it's your values that really take you very far. It's at least been in my case. And please tell your daughters that they have to be financially independent. There's no two ways about it, because it really gives you a lot of luxury in life to make certain difficult choices if you are financially independent. These are few lessons that my parents taught me. I mean, they came from very humble backgrounds. It wasn't like, and they came from small towns, and then they came to a city and made a life, but it never bothered them that they had two daughters, or and it was always like, we were sent to the best schools, we were expected to do well, we had no excuse because we were girls, right? So I think that's been my story, and I think I hope everybody listening, if they could find some meaning in this, I would be very glad. Yeah.
Awesome, Nisha. That's fabulous. In fact, one of my biggest takeaways that you said, and I'm glad that you actually mentioned that very clearly, is about accepting failures. One of the biggest thing in entrepreneurship that I have been taught, right, from some of my great mentors, is that think about a game. If you enjoy playing a game, how many times have you won? The truth is you fail more. It's just that's what makes winning so beautiful and so fantastic. And building an enterprise is also all about failing number of times and improving and winning. And as entrepreneurs, we need to give that space for us, to have to fail somewhere and to get up and move on. Only then innovation happens, and only then big businesses get set up. So I'm very glad that you brought that word out, in terms of failure, because somehow in our culture, failure is looked down upon. And if you see some of the great Western cultures, it is considered as people bet on people who have failed, because they believe that these guys will win bigger next time because they've learned their lesson. They're going to win bigger. That's the big entrepreneurial change that needs to come here. But awesome for bringing out that whole thing. Last question, and that I'm going to be selfish for the association, and then I'm going to ask the guy who actually has been very active with the association. Pratik, you're among those youngsters who actually stepped into the association, and you have been very active with RATA. And the Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Trade Association has really gone all out over the last 2 years, and we are pretty pan-India. We've brought in a whole new face to the whole entrepreneurial journey of HVAC business owners. Why? What do you think about, why do you spend so much of time with the Bangalore committee? What drives you, and what do you think RATA should be doing, or what are your expectations from the association?
The fact that I joined RATA was very, very incidental, according to me. There was an event that we were doing in Bangalore, if I can recall, and I was told I think Paras uncle had called up few people in Bangalore. My father was one of them. He said, we're doing something in Bangalore, so can you help? Like, yeah, why not? So, like any father, okay, तुम इधर आओ and तुम्हें ये 2-3 चीजें करना है. I said, okay, ठीक है, कर लूँगा, no problem. Not an issue. Lean months. So, and then once I started interacting with, I already knew Akash Bhaiya back then through Danfoss. So I was interacting primarily with him at that time. So, and then I understood what is it that Rata does and how it is different from the other bodies, right? I mean, ISHRE is very, very active in Bangalore, but it was very difficult for me to be a member of ISHRE because it was so technical, and I always felt I was at a back foot and I couldn't communicate well about my technical difficulties. So I just leave it like, ठीक है, मुझसे नहीं होगा तो मैं छोड़ देता हूँ ये. I mean, I'll just focus on business and figuring out कि business में क्या करूँगा. I can't do this. But Rata was a welcome change. It focused on those things that I was interested in. Okay, how do you scale up businesses? How do you make your businesses more process driven? How do you make more money out of this business? So these are things that excited me, and I didn't feel I was lacking in any of those areas, and I wanted to give my best because I think I could contribute in those areas, right? So I mean, Rata is essentially grappling with these humongous issues that affect everybody on this panel and the trade body, right? I mean, they give us these fantastic solutions and how we can move forward with this business. So that was one thing that excited me a lot. Like, okay, these guys are doing such a wonderful job. Why can't I be a part of this and figuring out, and can I add value to this? Yeah, I think I've been able to add some amount of value. I don't know. I mean, I think both Ajay ji and Mihir ji will be able to answer that. But I think now being associated with so many members on Rata and with the vision that I have for my own business, I'm certain that if I were to expand in different cities, tier 1, tier 2 across the country, I can call up anybody, any Rata member, and I'm sure I'll get like a welcome dose of knowledge, and they'll be able to guide me in the most amazing way possible. So now with this Gen Next thing, one of the principals had done the same program 3 years back. It was fantastic because then you got to meet people facing similar issues, right? I mean, 3 years ago, I was still relatively new to the business, a lot of baggage. How do you say no to your father? Are you talking to your father? Or are you talking about the entrepreneur who you're speaking with? When you're relatively new in the business, these are the issues that you're traditionally facing, right? So now with this Gen Next thing that we're doing with Rata, I think it's fantastic. And I think we should try and become, or rather, we should give our best to this, which I'm certain will be beneficial to the association. But I think it will help our businesses multiple fold more over the long run. So yeah, let's just try and become as good as we possibly can and grow this association throughout the country.
Awesome. You know, on that closing note, there's one thing, Pratik, you know, that what you bring out very clearly. And we're hoping that as a generation next, as the people who have just got into the business in the last 1 decade, we need to change one very important thing. In an industry that's growing 8 times, we are only trained to compete. All right? Mm-hmm. That's what we are all very well trained to, just to compete. But in an industry which is growing 8 times, there's no need to compete. The trick is to understand how to collaborate. And that's the essence of the whole thing. And most of the old people come with baggage, the generation, but you guys have got the fresh ideas and thoughts. Sending that message across to collaborate is the trick of the game. Only then we are able to scale up our business and build organized businesses. So it's been a fantastic learning from all of you guys. You know, it's very energetic. I've enjoyed the full 90 minutes listening to all you guys. It's just fabulous to see that we've got a great generation of entrepreneurs coming into our industry. And I'm really looking forward to each of you all to play a very active role within the association, not only just for your businesses, but also for the industry as a whole. So, you know, we kind of get in more and more people together for this growth that is waiting for us. So to all you wonderful people, thank you very much. Thank you, Mihir, for moderating. Yes, Roshan, go ahead.
Let me just add before we all part ways, to all the fathers or the mothers of the HVAC trade industry, I think my request to you guys is you guys all have to be more conducive to the ideas that the younger generation is putting out, and be okay, as Nisha said or Anirudh said, be okay for them to fail. Or Pratik said, I don't think we should make expensive mistakes because then the confidence even goes lower in the younger gen. But yes, be more conducive to change and let the new ideas flow, because without your support, I don't think we can flourish in this industry. I mean, that's all I thought I should add.
Amazing.
I'm not
guys.
saying make.
Very well
I'm not saying make expensive mistakes. I'm just saying we can afford to make those mistakes. I don't think my parents could afford to make those mistakes. I certainly can.
Awesome, guys. Awesome.
Absolutely.
So this is fabulous, guys. Thank you very much for being here. It's been a fantastic session, the 15th episode, and we're going to come back again last Saturday of next month with a whole new topic. So thank you very much, everybody. But before I leave, I'm going to close this session on a message which I've kind of borrowed. I've given the credit to that person. So here's the average age of the current business owners in our industry. Okay, they are 45 plus. So this is a great message from this generation to from the next generation to this generation. So thank you very much, guys, for being here. Thanks a lot. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you all the viewers who stayed through the entire session and engaged with us. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you all. Thank you, Meet.
Who here is past 45? Okay, these are the 3 things that will actually prevent the decline of your brain once you pass 45. Number 1, hyperoxygenation. At a minimum 3 times a week, you should be hyperoxygenating your blood system, aka doing some form of brisk walk or exercise to create a hyperoxygen state. The second thing is learning. It's a use it or lose it scenario. If you're not learning, your brain literally starts to divert resources to other organs and other areas of your body in order to maintain stability and homeostasis. And so the more you engage in learning, the sharper your brain stays. And more importantly, the more plastic your brain becomes, because you start connecting neurons that have never been connected before. And the third thing that I discovered, which is more important than the other 2 combined, guess what it is? Social connections. And that's because one of the largest portions of our brain is the mammalian brain. We are social animals. Here's what's really interesting. It's not just social connections that preserve brain function. When you add this other ingredient to connection, everything skyrockets. And do you know what that extra special ingredient is? It's collaboration. When we feel and when we engage in collaboration with another mammal, it literally is like miracle grow for our brains, for our hormones, for all of the biochemistry that in most cases will deplete feelings of depression, anxiety, and stress, and leave us feeling full of love, connection, and energy, and positive feelings.